Now, don't get me wrong, I've made a lot of mistakes in real estate, and I think that's what's really important for people to understand is when you're going to start any kind of endeavor in real estate, whether you're buying your personal house, whether you're buying investment property, whether you're buying land, it doesn't matter. You have to learn from other people because listen, there's a lot of people out there that tell you what you should do. You should do this, you should do that, and I tell people oftentimes you should all over yourself. Should, right? So it's important to know what you should not do because the best way that I've learned, and I share with people, the fastest and best way that I've learned is to learn from other people's mistakes. If they've already banged their head on the wall, I don't want to bang mine. And so that's the purpose of videos like this. That's the reason why I like shooting these videos, is because it's fun for me to help people like yourself who may be watching this video. So you can take what you've learned, share it with someone else, use the skills that you may learn from watching a video like this, that you can better your life and better someone else's life. Now, if you're watching this video and you're thinking, Wayne, I just want to purchase a home for myself. I just want to purchase my own individual house. I'll get to that here in just a second, show you some quick ways how you can do that for little to no money out of pocket. But for now, the premise of this video is for me to share with you what I've personally, the mistakes that I've made, and most importantly, how you can learn from those mistakes, avoid those mistakes, avoid a whole lot of stress, and avoid, most importantly, wasting money. Now look, you have a lot of people, the gurus out there, the Dave Ramsey, the Robert Kiyosaki, the Grant Cardone, they say, you know, real estate is a liability. Real estate is not an asset. Well, technically it is a liability because anything that you own, you're responsible for. And if you're responsible for something, you're liable for that. But it's kind of like having a kid. Like the best name I've ever been called is Dad. My child is a liability, but she's also a huge asset. And look, real estate's the same way. You could argue, well, it's a liability, but it's also an asset. Sure, you're responsible for it, but if you play your cards right, it's very much an asset and it can make you money. But at the end of the day, I tell people, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. You purchase real estate to hold real estate so you know that in the future, that entity, real estate, regardless of whatever it may be, will go up in value. Now look, full disclosure, I don't care if you buy real estate or not. I've been brokering, owning, flipping, selling. I've been dealing with real estate now for 30 years. And most importantly, I tell people to purchase it because it's one of the simplest things where you can simply purchase that property, put a renter in that property. It's super easy now to look at videos to learn anything on how to fix a property. But most importantly, you can purchase investment property. And my biggest mistake by far is not starting soon enough and not purchasing more property. Knowing what I know now at 51 years old, I would have bought a whole lot more property. I would have bought more multifamily properties. So that's the first thing. Now the second thing is I wanted to get into flipping houses, and that was fun. I flipped houses. I bought a house and I flipped it. And I made money, but I would have made more money on the property had I not made this mistake when you're flipping houses, and that is to get too emotionally attached to the property. You want to flip a property and make it nice, but you can't go overboard, and it's easy to do, especially when you really take pride in your work. You take pride in what you do. Anything you put your name behind, you take pride in that. You want it to look good. But for the first few flips, I realized I have to make, you know, you can't take a 1,200 square foot house and put fixtures in it that could be in a 3,000 square foot house. You have to work the square footage. You have to work the market because, and it's not so much this, you're trying to make this huge profit, but it's unnecessary. The property's still going to sell and you can outspend your budget really quickly when it comes to flipping houses. Now, the other mistake that I've made with real estate is looking for that quick buck, looking for the fast flip, the quick turnaround, and looking to make money quick. And I tell people this, if you're going to flip your first property and you don't make any money whatsoever, you make $0, the skill set, the wisdom, what you learn in that process, you can't go learn anywhere else. Like literally you purchase a piece of property to flip it and you work it and it costs you more and then you sell it and you're like, dude, I made $12, that's crazy. I wouldn't do that again. Well, what would you do different? That's what you have to ask yourself. Because if you don't make so much as a profit, if you net zero, it doesn't even matter if you lose money. The wisdom and the knowledge that you gained flipping that property will carry on with you forever. So you get what I'm saying. I had a guy that bought a piece of property, wanted to flip the property, goes, man, I ain't gonna make any money off this. It was his first flip. And I was like, dude, here's what you have to understand. The amount of information that you've learned and processed, you're going to carry that to the next property. So don't beat yourself up. You got to look at taking that knowledge, taking that experience, taking that information, roll it to the next property. What would you do different next time? Another mistake that I've made is kind of winging it when it comes to the bookkeeping and all that. You want to keep up with your forms, your documentations, and all that good stuff. I use a company called easylandlordforms.com. I'll put the link in here. They do a really good job with keeping up with all of that, have all kind of documents, all kind of forms, and it's specific for your state. That's a good little company that I use. And I've made the mistake of just using pen, paper, and a legal pad, and it can all work, but you got to have a good little system and a process for making sure that everything will run smoothly. Another mistake that I've made is not screening tenants properly. And there's companies and services out there, there's quite a few of them, you can Google them if you wish, and they will screen a tenant. In other words, they'll pull a credit check, background check, they'll pull all of that information for you, so you have a bird's eye view, if you will, of the prospective tenant that you're going to be placing in your property. Credit report, background history, criminal, job, all of that stuff. And I always tell people, look, if somebody has a lower credit score and they got a bruise on a credit score, they got a 550, 540, 560, you know, it's comical to me to have property owners that say, well, I'm not renting anybody unless I got a 620 credit score, 640 credit score. Do you know if you have a 620 credit score, 2 years on the job, you can buy a house? You can buy a house 2 years after your bankruptcy discharge. As long as you have a 620 or higher, 2 years on the job, and of course they're going to look at your debt to income ratio. But anyway, back to the rental part, it's really simple. If somebody has a lower score but everything else checks out, ask them to explain to you why they have a lower score. And most importantly, listen to your gut. Go with your gut. I say, look, that's God talking to you. Just listen to your gut. Your gut will tell you yes or no every time. Here's a big mistake that people have when it comes to real estate and buying real estate. They think that they've got to put 15, 20% down. They think that they have to put 10% down. You can purchase a property literally right now, residential home, in just about anywhere in the country. And you have to understand this number, and this is not a typo. 97% of the land in the United States is rural land. It is not in a city. It's not in a confined city. Think about that, 97% of the land. That's why I tell people, so many people are moving on the outskirts. So many people are choosing to live in these rural, these suburban, these sub-rural areas where you're still close to shopping centers and restaurants and churches and schools and hospitals, but yet you can take advantage of the opportunity to be able to purchase a house in those neighborhoods, those areas, for no money out of pocket through USDA RD loans. It's legit. And here's what's really cool. It's not just for single family homes. You can purchase up to a 4-unit property. Think about that. You can purchase up to a 4-unit property, a quadruplex, and not have to spend any money out of pocket. Like literally you can get a USDA loan on a duplex, a triplex, a quadruplex. Doesn't cost you any money out of pocket. All you have to do is live in one of the units for at least 1 year after you purchase it. And here's what's really cool. I tell people everybody knows this. You got to know this. When you purchase those properties, they're already going to have tenants in them. So think about that. You have tenants in the property. They're already in the property. They're already paying rent. You purchase the property, guess who they're going to pay rent to next month? You. So when I say a mistake that I made with real estate is not getting in sooner, not knowing sooner, not really embracing the fact of purchasing property and owning property sooner. And here's why. I didn't really understand the benefit. And the 3 benefits are this. You get to depreciate the property over 27.5 years. That means that whatever you buy the property for, if you bought the property for $200,000, you take 200, divide that by 27.5, and that's how much you get to deduct from your income each year on your taxes. The second is that property is going to go up in value. If you hang on to that property 4, 5, 6, 7 years, it's going to be worth more than you bought it. It's going to appreciate. And then thirdly, you have someone else that's leasing, renting the property from you, and they're paying you rent. And that rent money goes to pay the mortgage. So yes, it appreciates, it goes up in value. Someone else is paying your mortgage on that property. They're not paying your mortgage, but you get what I'm saying. They're paying you rent so you can use that money to pay your mortgage. And then you get to depreciate that property. You don't depreciate the land. They look at, okay, what is the cost of the actual structure? That's why if you'll notice on all these tax records, it'll say the value of the land and then the value of the structure, because you're depreciating the actual structure over 27.5 years. So if you buy a $200,000 house, it may be sitting on a $50,000 lot, and you get to take the 150, divide it by 27.5, and depreciate that over 27.5 years. Now here's something new that's really cool that they're just now releasing. It's just coming out. Literally, it's just coming out November 18th, 2023. They're changing it to where you do not have to have 15 or 20% down to buy an investment property. If you're willing to live in one side of those properties, so if it's a duplex, a quadruplex, or triplex, you can purchase that property and all you need is 5% down, regardless of where it is. Doesn't matter. So if you're willing to purchase one of those properties and live in one of the sides, one of the units, you purchase a duplex in the heart of New Orleans, Atlanta, Miami, wherever it may be, then you can purchase those properties as long as you live in one side. So think about that. That can really get you started. That's what I would have done differently. If I would have been 21 years old, knowing what I know now, I would have bought a duplex or a quadruplex, triplex, and I would have rented one side out and lived in the other. And then after a year, you can move and buy another piece of property, go to do whatever you want to do with it. But you have a piece of property now that's 4 units bringing you in positive cash flow, that's appreciating in value, that you're depreciating on your taxes. Now here's something else that I learned over the years when it comes to buying real estate. And this was a mistake that I made, and I've shared this with people, and they're like, light bulb went off, is when you have, for example, $100,000 to invest in real estate, and you want to go put 20% down, or you want to put 50% down, or you want to pay $100,000 cash for a property. You're better off to take $100,000 cash and buy 5 properties and put $20,000 down on each one of those properties. And here's the reason why. Because by putting minimum amount down on each property, you're now going to have 5 properties that you get depreciate. You have 5 properties that are going to be generating rental income, and you have 5 properties that are increasing in value. So think about this. You have one property that you bought, you pay cash. You own the property for 7 years. Now it's worth $130,000. So you had one property, now it's worth $130,000. You made $30,000 in value. But what if you had 5 properties and those 5 properties made $30,000? You just have $150,000 in equity, in value. So look, if you feel like this information is valuable, give us a thumbs up, share this video with someone that you think it would help them, and most importantly, subscribe to our channel. More videos like this will be coming, and if you have any thoughts or comments, please leave below. Most importantly, if you have something concerning real estate, a question that you may have, or a video that you would like to hear more on a topic, please share that with us so we can get more information out there to people just like yourself. We thank you for watching once again, and God bless.